and turns out it's worst case scenario for Harold Perkins, out for the year, torn ACL. Can't help but wonder if that's the last down of college football that he plays, which is just a massive, massive bummer.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. It's something that's like interesting, and we've talked about this with a ton of players. It's made me realize that like LSU players, man, they kind of don't get better.
How
Like,
many true freshmen at LSU have we talked about? Like LSU leads the country in that. And like Derek Stingley and I mean the Honey Badger
Jamar
stuff.
Chase not coming back for his senior year. Yeah, I mean, you could go through at Rick's, like all these guys that we've had where it's Kayshawn Booty is another guy.
Keishawn Booty's a
right?
good one, yeah.
Where it's like, okay, and not the guys don't get better, it's the guys don't get better in college. Because that's the funny thing, as we see, Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels duel out on Monday Night Football. These guys all produce in the pros. But that's why I loved, Malik Neighbors so much, because he was a guy that got better every year. Really rare at LSU. Often you will get one big year a la Honey Badger, and then you just kind of disappear, go be a great pro.
Ryan Perrilloux.
Ryan Perrilloux, man.
Sorry, didn't mean to go there.
It's on my birthday or my birthday week, but yeah, that was a guy. Anyway, so point being, like, yeah, I think even Jordan Jefferson was like that. He was a great freshman. So point being, this doesn't shock me because I've been through it a ton. I think with Harold Perkins, LSU definitely kind of failed him in the last 2 years, counting this year, right? I didn't, unfortunately, right? He wasn't really an impact player on the defense this year or last year because they didn't use him correctly. And he's not a guy who's 6'6" and gonna push guys sideways and be like, or even like a Tyrann Mathieu that you just kind of put him anywhere and he figures it out. They still were trying to determine what his best role was. He was playing star as one of those 6 guys that had a new position in the South Carolina game. So yeah, it really is. I've said this over and over again, kind of a failing by LSU to maximize a guy who they did have for 2 years and some change. It was immediately impactful. Brian Kelly took a minute to play him, and then once they found out what he was, it was like they started to take away from that or add things and basically give him a calculus test when they said that he was succeeding in algebra. So it sucks. He's a guy that, to your point, I'm not really sure where he plays in the NFL because we haven't exactly figured that out, but I think he goes.
Here's the thing. What if he doesn't? What if he doesn't? And I'm not saying that I'm like, I would tell a kid you absolutely need to come back to school. And I certainly will not be surprised if Harold Perkins looks at the last 2 years at LSU and says, why in the world would I come back to a place that has misused me? I have no problem whatsoever if Harold Perkins decides that's the last down of college football that I'm playing. I'm going to the NFL. I'm going to make sure that I get taken care of. As long as I get that first round grade, I'm good. But what if he comes back? Because he just turned 20 2 weeks ago.
Sure
you brought up the point. Where's his position at the NFL? Like, where's the position that scouts are going to look at and say, that's the thing you definitively do best? Because I love seeing Harold Perkins just attack the ball carrier, as great as that is. Reality is he'd be one of the 10 lightest inside linebackers in the NFL. He'd easily be the lightest edge rusher in the NFL. And what have you seen from him in coverage besides some nice progression to make you think, yeah, but how much of that have you been able to say, yes, that's where you can make a living on in the NFL? And like, I'm not saying that he wouldn't be able to find somewhere that could use him successfully, but especially too, after the way the Isaiah Simmons situation played out. Isaiah Simmons is already on his second team. He's with the Giants, and he was at 238 coming into the combine too. And that's a guy that was kind of like a tweener at Clemson, and he ends up winning the Butkus Award playing linebacker, something that he did really well in his like pre-draft year. But like, I just kind of wonder if he actually looks at this situation and looks at all the feedback and then goes, you know what? What if I did this? What if I do this crazy thing of kind of dictating the terms to LSU, both from an NIL standpoint and from a positional standpoint? And he says, look, here's how I'd like to be used. Here's how I feel comfortable playing this sport. And here's how I'd like to be used. I'll let all that other stuff take care of itself. I'm not saying that I think that's going to happen. I'm just saying that I don't think it would be that crazy if it did.
Well, man, I've been joking about me getting like the homer tag, but this is just going to upset every LSU fan. I think he's done it.
I'll admit, for sure. Dude, I'll admit I want to see Harold Perkins play more college football, and that's definitely fueling this take that I have. Like, no doubt about it. Let
me finish, though. I think he's played his last down for LSU. Because at the end of the day, if you're Harold Perkins, what have you seen from this university on defense specifically? And I know Blake Baker's been great for linebackers. Like, I get that. But if you're going to come back to college, to your point, if I'm Harold Perkins, I go to either the highest bidder or go to a place like Georgia where it's like, hey, if you just hang out around Kirby Smart, you're going to go in the first round at this point, kind of like on Nick Saban. I mean, he produces great players, but LSU, he has so much bad tape out there. If I'm playing the wrong position,
Yeah.
if you just put him around a bunch of 5-stars and say, Harold, do two things well, you're going to go in the first round. We've seen that go to, even like a Texas, not to say that they're, they have the same pedigree as Georgia, but the money is going to be there. The spotlight is going to be there. So I think he's definitely played his last down for LSU just for a couple of reasons. LSU doesn't, we've seen, have the money of a Texas or a Georgia. Number two, it's not like they have this great relationship. Blake Baker's been his first kind of good coordinator, and he's had him for a couple months, right? And how locked in he was at media days, how seriously he was taking his leadership role. But at the same time, if you're going to go turn down NFL money, you either got to go chase a paycheck or you got to go chase like a first or second round grade. And I don't think you get either of those at LSU.
Yeah, and like that's the other thing too is, even if teams want to work you out at different spots for the draft or something, you're going to be coming off a serious knee injury. I don't know what you're going to be able to do. If it's a little bit different than these guys who go into like a Jameson Williams, who obviously like went into the pre-draft process coming off the torn ACL, but he put together such great film with that year that he had at Bama that it was like, all right, his draft stock, he's going to be good to go. He's not going to necessarily have to go out there and prove anything. I'm very interested what this next chapter for Harold Perkins looks like, and I hope the best is yet to come for that kid, because man, it was so fun to watch when he was right, but it's a bummer to think about the idea of him having played his last down at LSU, potentially his last down of college football.
Yeah, for sure. Hope the best for the kid. He was Brian Kelly is one of his first recruits, first 5-star. And I think he did a lot to kind of make people believe in LSU. I loved watching him as a player, whatever number he wore, right? Maybe the number 7 we need to take a hard look at.
Just keep the same number, whatever you do next year. Maybe keep the same number. Just saying, throwing it out there.
I think 7 almost needs to be like bestowed, like the Heisman House. Like we need to get everybody together and say, this is going to be our number 7 for like 2 or 3 years. Because it feels like every time we give a guy 7 now, it's like, you're out of here.
Yeah, Swinson looks good though at 4 with the number 4. I mean, he's been a man-child up front for LSU, and that's a good thing for this LSU defense is like, yeah, it's been a little bit more quarter to quarter, but they've actually found some impact players, as crazy as that might be. I'm not saying that they're all of a sudden back to having a really good defense, but I think they have at least shown they can find some of those impact guys with Blake Baker, but certainly they would rather have Harold Perkins Jr. than not, and it's unfortunate that they're not going to have him.